Well, hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. Hope you had a great weekend. And thank you for tuning in to another episode. This might be a little controversial for some people. I spent 25 years uncovering the truth about disease, the root cause of disease. To go down that road, that's led me into some deep and dark tunnels. In other words, when you ask for the truth, be prepared for the truth, because it's a documentary in the description as well. But when we were researching, and to this day, I still do lots of research on the root cause of disease, and you could pick anything, artificial colors, from GMO foods, genetic engineering, to chemtrails, to, there's so many heavy metals or parasites or biological weapons or anything like that. A lot of it also has to do with propaganda, telling you what they want you to hear. And I say they, meaning a small group of individuals that control the world and basically control what you watch, control what you eat, control everything about you without you even knowing about it. And I don't want to just sit here today and tell you, and like I'm some fear-mongering conspiracy theorist, which I've been labeled. I've been labeled a witch doctor. I've been labeled a conspiracy theorist. I've been labeled everything under the sun. People have lied about me nonstop online, media channels, complete lies, only because I share with you the truth. And before I've been having lots of people contact me lately about what's currently going on in the world. And I'm going to be, the purpose of this video is not only to educate you, because education is power. Like if you know what's harming you, if you know what's killing you, if you know the plan, and you know and have the solutions, that's what I'm all about. Okay, I mean, that's what everything's about. I've been accumulating data on this topic today, 5G, EMFs, for a long time. I mean, ever since cell phones came out, I've been accumulating data. And I put it all into a document for free for you to be able to verify and check every single thing that I'm talking about today. And it would literally take me to explain the whole thing, probably days, if not weeks. However, I always want to do my own research. Like if somebody tells me one thing, or if I hear something on the news, I pretty much never believe it. And I always go and try to do my own research. And that's why currently, with everybody staying at home, more than ever before, people are starting to wake up. And when people start to wake up to the truth, to the reality, and stop believing every single thing they hear, that's when you can really have a mass consciousness shift. And that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping for and praying for, because it's time that we dig a little bit deeper. Everybody digs a little bit deeper and gets to the truth behind everything. And you can't just look at 5G, because if you just start looking at 5G, that's only one thing. You have to start connecting the dots. Who's behind 5G? Who owns 5G? What's the agenda behind 5G? What's the agenda behind pandemics? What's the agenda behind Project Mockingbird from the CIA and the propaganda? And we're going to get into a little bit of all this, but I'm not going to go too deep. But here's what I recommend you do. I recommend that you, and listen, I know a lot of you out there watching this video know as much or more than I do about all this stuff. Okay, I know that. It's time for us to share this information with the people that don't know about it. This country is divided. Now we're actually coming together. Before this situation happened, it's been divided. People don't even realize that, everything usually is done for a reason, purposely. Why do you think they have the Democratic Party and the Republican Party? So you can divide people. I like to tell people I'm not blue and I'm not red. I'm red, white, and blue. What happened to America? What happened to red, white, and blue? What happened to unity? What happened to loving everybody as a brother and a sister? Why is there so much violence? Why is there so much fear? Well, we're going to get into that today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this document and I'm going to go through it so I don't forget anything. And we're going to start with what are EMFs? What is 5G? Electromagnetic frequencies. That name is scary in itself. Why does anyone think it's safe or okay to be bombarded with an electromagnetic frequency? So now what they have is what's called WiGig. And WiGig is a wireless standard designed to encourage high wireless speeds. So traditional wireless uses about 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz bands. I mean, there's all kinds of bands we'll get into as well, megahertz bands. But the WiGig is designed to use a 60 gigahertz bandwidth to transmit information. Just to give you a little bit of information up front, guess what? 60 gigahertz messes with the oxygen absorption, and it also messes with iodine. Actually, 6 gigahertz range messes with iodine. It's when you think about and you start researching, and by the way, on this document, I have the links to all the research behind this. So I'm not just going to sit here and talk and give you a bunch of stuff without providing you the evidence behind it. You can post. So use this video and post the documentation, post the link so everybody can share and everybody can get this. 5G technology is being called a unified connectivity fabric. Anybody remember the Matrix? Think about that. And that's the way it's listed from the International Telecommunications Union. A unified connectivity fabric. Their goal is to support 100 billion. Listen, all this stuff on the document I'm sharing with you was actually from a long time ago. I finished putting a lot of this together in May of 2018. Okay, this is old information. I know there's videos out there floating around on YouTube and everywhere else saying that I was the one that predicted, or one of the people that predicted everything that's happening now. From the videos I was putting out in 2018, everything is coming to fruition. Their goal was to support 100 billion devices by 2020. Guess what year it is? 2020. They wanted to do this they wanted to saturate the urban areas. They wanted to move people into the cities, and they're planning that what they wanted to do is support at 1 million devices per square kilometer. Can you imagine? 1 million devices per square kilometer. So, at the millimeter wave frequency of 60 gigahertz, this was taken directly from rfglobal.net.com. At the millimeter wave frequency of 60 gigahertz, the absorption is very high, with 98% of the transmitted energy absorbed by oxygen. Does that sound strange to you that most people right now that are suffering and going into the hospitals are suffering from pulmonary? Doctors are doing videos and coming out and saying that patients are walking in with blood oxygen levels in the 70s, that they shouldn't even be walking. They should be in a coma, but yet they're walking in and they're full of energy and they're wondering what's going on. Does that sound strange? I mean, these doctors are posting videos. I mean, what's going on with that? While oxygen absorption at 60 gigahertz severely limits the range, okay, it limits the range of 60 gigahertz. It also eliminates interference. And for millimeter waves, the primary absorption molecules, this is a millimeter wave, same as the TSA body scanners that people just go walk through and just sit in all the time and let their bodies get, blown to pieces by frequency waves, not even knowing that it's harming them. This also affects water, oxygen, CO2, and ozone. And the FCC has allocated the millimeter wave RF spectrum, radio frequency spectrum, from 57.05 to 64 gigahertz for unlicensed use, okay, under Part 15. All wireless equipment operating at 60 gigahertz must obtain FCC Part 15 type certification. Once certified, which they are, the product can be deployed license-free, okay, throughout the United States. The unlicensed frequency spectrum allows the end user to avoid the added cost of regional spectrum auctions held by the FCC. Due to the unique characteristics of the 60 gigahertz millimeter wave region, wireless communication at 60 gigahertz offers a reliable, listen to this, last mile alternative to installing physical fiber. They can be used for a variety of applications, including metropolitan area networks, campus networks, network backbones, network branch links, temporary emergency restoration, and local access. Now, I don't know if it's true, but I watched a video the other day that during this time, when people are locked down, they are testing and installing and making the final adjustments to all of these 60 gigahertz millimeter wave systems everywhere, from your street lights to your power lines to everything. This is common sense. Common sense. Tesla, as well as Einstein, as well as many other scientists, have 100% confirmed that we are an electrical, vibrational, energetic being. Masaru Emoto, in Messages from Water, said, "There's nothing as damaging to water as electromagnetic frequencies." And we and every living substance on the planet is composed of water, oxygen, we breathe out CO2, and ozone is what cleans our air. So, the FCC is moving quickly to adapt 5G technology. Verizon and AT&T started 5G trials in 2017, with the first commercial deployments in 2020. They noted that all areas, including rural communities, will be saturated. Listen to the terminology that they use. In other words, no part of the country will be safe. No part of the country will be safe from ultra high frequency signals. Ultra high frequency signals. Now, let's go back a little bit. In 2016, the U.S. became the first nation to allocate a large swath of airwaves for 5G. Those services could be available to consumers by, guess what? 2020, offering transmission speeds of at least 10 times faster than 4G. 5G is planned to extend the FCC's current policy of mandatory irradiation of the public. The FCC's current policy of mandatory, is that unconstitutional? Mandatory irradiation of the public. It is planned that 5G will rely on the UN constitutional and criminal 1996 Telecommunications Act, signed by Bill Clinton. If you don't know and you're not familiar with the Telecommunications Act, it was signed in 1996. Go look at right to bar the installation of wireless technology on environmental and health grounds. Are you kidding me? What do you think? What do you think 5G and harmful radiation does? It destroys the environment. It destroys your health. But they're banning local governments, state governments, municipalities the right to refuse 5G and wireless technology on the grounds of environmental and health. I mean, is that the craziest thing that you've heard or what? UN Agenda 2030 and 2050 is why we're being constantly bombarded with these fake environmental things, talking about, we all need smart meters, we all need smart grids, smart cities, blah, 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 so we can all communicate with each other. Millimeter wave, 5G. I talked about the body scanners. It is a whole body imaging device used for detecting objects concealed under a person's clothing using a form of electromagnetic radiation. There are currently 1,000 to, well, not currently right now, but in a normal airport day, 1,000 to 5,000 scans per minute. Okay? What is that doing to people? Do you see the disease rates going down in America? No. Do you see the disease rates going down anywhere in the world? No. They keep going up, 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 up. It's time that people understand why they have negative health conditions, why they have disease. Okay? And when you go to the doctor's office with a shopping list of symptoms and they give you pharmaceuticals, well, that's one of the things that's causing even more diseases. Unless you start realizing what the root cause is, which is all this stuff together. I gave a speech in 1999 about all of the toxic, from fluoride to artificial sweeteners, from all the chemicals and pesticides and all this stuff combined, the heavy metals, all that stuff. It's all of this together. It's not just one thing. The coming upgrade to 5G, well, actually, this was, like I said, some of this stuff was from, 10 years ago, is likely going to lead to disastrous biological effects. Become shocking stuff here in a little while, too. That's just going to blow your mind about what's going on right now. Well, guess what? The product of oxidative phosphorylation is water and CO2 by a mitochondria. Okay? And this process will be demolished by 5G. And now we have industry installers talking to people about the coming tsunami. By the way, I just want to give a shout out to all the people. Listen, I'm not taking credit for a lot of this information because most of this information I got from other sources. And I'd like to thank all these people out here that have been spending and dedicating their lives to uncovering the documentation behind a lot of this stuff. That comes from stop5g.cz. And I have all the links in here. And in on these sites, A lot of these sites actually provide documentation from the government, leaked documentation. Right. I mean, this is all out in the open, actually. You can go get this and read about it on Wiki, on the FCC's website. It's like, so that, it's just people don't take the time to look into the cause of things. That runs on something called a Tetra network. Schools are adding revenue by putting 5G towers on schools and not notifying the students or the parents of these actions. If you have kids in school, I would be talking to the principals of the schools, asking them if they have 5G. I would not want my kids exposed to 5G. That's why I started homeschooling my kids 3 years ago. You have to basically be aware of all this stuff. It's more dangerous than a terror group. We hear about all this stuff. Oh, yeah, all these terrorists here and these terrorists here. I tell you what, I mean, this stuff that's being implemented on us, the people that are doing it are terrorists. Slow death is what it is. Slow death. And you know what? It's all about power and it's all about money. Follow the money. Follow the power. And you will get the truth behind everything. All right. Studies on 5G have shown that the sweat ducts in our skin act like antennas for 5G signals. Gee, these are all actual studies. The number of sweat ducts within human skin varies from 2 million to 4 million. We need to know if 5G increases the risk of skin diseases such as melanoma or other skin cancers, stated Ron Melnick, the National Institute of Health scientist. Now he's retired, who led the design of the National Toxicology Program study on cell phone radio frequency radiation. For years, the U.S., Russian, and Chinese defense agencies have been developing weapons that rely on the capability of this electromagnetic technology to induce unpleasant burning sensations on the skin as a form of crowd control. Millimeter waves are utilized by the U.S. Army in crowd dispersal guns called active denial systems. People hit with the millimeter waves run away feeling like their body's on fire. The U.S. Department of Defense explains how. The sensation dissipates when the target moves out of the beam. The sensation is intense enough to cause a nearly instantaneous reflex action of the target to flee the beam. Interesting about all those reports coming out of the UK about people's skin tingling and burning. In the US, people going out at night and noticing their skin tingling and burning. I'll just let you think about that one for a minute. Wireless communication devices operating at higher frequencies, such as 60 gigahertz, allow businesses to link to the fiber easily without the cost and time delays associated with physical fiber installation. Between 40 and 70 gigahertz are the same frequencies as our military crowd control weapons. Why would we put military crowd control weapons in our homes? Y-gig is going in people's homes. Okay? Well, we'll find out a little bit more about that later. I tell you what, one of my favorite scientists is Dr. Martin Pall, or Paul, P-A-L-L. He's a scientist, was a scientist from Washington State University. I highly recommend you look at some of his research. On the document I'm providing, there are links to his documents on microwave frequency electromagnetic fields produce widespread neuropsychiatric effects, including depression. We have to look at what fear does to the body as well. Okay, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on when we talk about Project Mockingbird. And trust me, you think that this is fun for me to come out and sit here and talk about all this? What's fun for me to do is give you the material so you can learn everything that I've learned and be able to protect your family and hear another narrative, one that you're never going to hear on TV through the mainstream media. Anyway, he's great and his research is great, and I've included some links down there for you. All right, so I wanted to share something that somebody sent me regarding some of these internet installers and routers you might have in your home. This was posted on EMF Warriors. I think it was a Facebook post, and they got permission to share the post, and they wanted to remain anonymous for the general public. But let me read this to you. Just had a major run around with Comcast. We recently switched from Frontier DSL to Comcast, thinking they would be wired internet instead of wireless. Comcast confirmed this, yet about a week after having their service, I noticed that my EMF micro alert meter was registering microwave radiation from the Comcast router. I called Comcast, and they insisted the Wi-Fi was turned off. I found out that Comcast uses private home routers as Wi-Fi hotspots for the public. Did you know that? I bet you didn't, because you didn't read the 5 pages of text like you get on your phone with your router and your internet service. Then they turned off the Wi-Fi hotspot, but there was still a hidden network. It took a few hours on the phone with Comcast to get them to agree to turn this off. It seems that the Wi-Fi hotspot is a 2.4 gigahertz, and the hidden network is a 5 gigahertz, aka 5G. Basically, it seems to me like they are using our home routers as mini cell towers now, unbeknownst to most of us. I will now keep my micro alert EMF meter next to my computer in case they decide to secretly turn on these Wi-Fi networks again without my knowledge. I still may go back to Frontier DSL as my trust has ended. They said I have a dual bandwidth router with both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz capabilities. They turned on the 2.4 as the Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspot. They turned on the 5 gig emitting as a mini cell site from my router. And it listed as a hidden network on my computer when I opened the Wi-Fi status tab on my computer. I had to talk to several people at Comcast that figured out what was going on. And only because I have an EMF meter, which I highly suggest everybody gets, could I confirm the Wi-Fi was not turned off. What is G? Gram. 5 is penta, and G is gram. Think about that. Pentagram. Isn't that the same upside down star used in devil worshiping? Coincidence? Maybe. Who knows? So let's talk a little bit about some of the other frequencies, because when you combine a bunch of different frequencies, it makes it even worse, right? So you can say, oh yeah, fluoride in the body, yeah, but then you do fluoride, bromine, chlorine, all the other things mixed together. So 3G, a lot of people still have 3G. That operates 800 megahertz to 1900 megahertz frequency range. People have been complaining about EHS, and that's electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome. Now, that's characterized by a variety of symptoms, which include individuals. You could be exposed. There's a lot of people that are just extra sensitive, and most of the symptoms are dermatological: redness, tingling, stinging, tingling, burning sensations. Lots of times, have you noticed fatigue? How many people have been fatigued over the last 10 years? And nobody can explain why. Fatigue is one of the telltale signs of harmful frequency exposure. Dizzy WHO website, the World Health Organization. I include the link there for you to go check it out for yourself. I'm not making this up. Mark Steele was a scientist. He formerly worked for the IEEE Communication Society. He maintains that the Wi-Fi smart street lights, many located right outside a resident's bedroom windows, are causing insomnia, nosebleeds, and stillbirths. Whoa, are you telling me that Wi-Fi can affect fertility? Stillbirths? Really? Babies are dying in the womb, he said. It is a humanitarian crisis. Steele says that the lights have decimated insect and bird populations along with harming human health. The sparrows, says Steele, have been annihilated. Oh, and did you know that the California Medical Association, the California branch of the AMA, wrote this in December of 2014? Peer-reviewed research has demonstrated adverse biological effects of wireless EMF, including single and double-stranded DNA breaks. Okay, this was from the California Medical Association. We're going to talk about that. Remember that. Single and double-stranded DNA breaks. Creation of reactive oxygen species, immune dysfunction, cognitive processing effects, stress protein synthesis in the brain, altered brain development, sleep and memory disturbances, ADHD, abnormal behavior, sperm dysfunction, and brain tumors. Okay? That's not me making it up. That's the California Medical Association in 2014 saying that. Then you have Dr. Thomas Rau, medical director of the renowned Paracelsus Clinic in Switzerland, asserts that EMFs, electromagnetic fields from wireless networks and cell phones, can cause hypersensitivity syndrome, increases with metals in the body. Really? Think about all the people with mercury amalgams in their mouth. Think about all the aluminum being sprayed in the atmosphere from the chemtrails. Think about all of the metals, cadmium, nickel, lead, all of the heavy metals that we're exposed to out there. Aluminum is off the charts. All have metals in our body. If anyone had any previous head trauma, mold, and guess what? Microbes potentially increase with exposure to electromagnetic radiation. It has effects on DNA. Electromagnetic frequencies in the thyroid are well studied. Scientists usually divide the electromagnetic spectrum into ionizing and non-ionizing. Ionizing radiation, which includes X-rays and atomic radiation, causes cancer. We know that, Nuclear radiation, we know that causes cancer. Non-ionizing radiation, which includes microwave radiation, electromagnetic frequencies, radio frequencies. Zero research from the telecommunications industry that says it's safe. How can it be mandated to be something severely dangerous on the worldwide population with no studies done on it? Thyroid dysfunction. How many people out there do you know that have thyroid issues? Are linked to mobile phone use. EMF has been found to alter levels of TSH and thyroid hormones. Higher than normal TSH levels and low T4 and normal T3 in mobile users. These are studies. Effects on the endocrine system, a sensitivity of pineal, pituitary, adrenal, and thyroid glands. Your pineal gland, those are all your hormone systems. Those are your endocrine glands, your pituitary gland. Your pineal gland is your third eye. That's your spiritual connection. It's becoming calcified. Electromagnetic frequencies. As a matter of fact, the pineal gland is the highest vibrational organ in your whole body. It vibrates the highest. So now the studies are saying that EMFs affect your pineal gland. Yes, it does. EMF exposure affects and may impair the hippocampus or memory center in the brain. This regulates emotions, behavior, motivation, and memory function. Are you telling me that you can manipulate my mood now? Are you telling me that you can manipulate and regulate my behavior? How motivated I am? It's also linked to Alzheimer's. Also, mitochondria were morphologically abnormal and uncertain in the study. Your mitochondria in your cells. Increase in radio frequency exposure also trends with thyroid papillary cancer, by the way. A 2017 study found 15 minutes of radio frequency exposure measurably reduced subtle energy levels of endocrine glands, the nervous system, the liver, the kidney, the spleen, and the immune system. More than 30 studies have been conducted to determine what link the condition has to exposure to electromagnetic fields from sources such as radar dishes, mobile phone signals, and Wi-Fi hotspots. Brain MRIs in patients complaining of electrohypersensitivity, 100% of the scans were abnormal with abnormalities. Complaints included headaches, cognitive and memory problems, disorientation. Scans had head injury or mold previous to electrohypersensitivity, suggesting head injury and neurotoxic chemical exposure may make a patient more vulnerable to electrohypersensitivity syndrome, which basically means neurotoxic chemical exposure means pretty much all of us. Heavy metal toxicity increases your risk of electromagnetic sensitivity. Study found chronic medical problems associated with prolonged exposure to harmful environmental electromagnetic fields radiating in the bedroom or workplace, and their exacerbation by intake of harmful light and heavy metals from common sources. Significant abnormal acetylcholine reduction duration was observed in those who have aluminum, lead, or mercury deposits. Okay. Presence of microbes also aggravated by EMF. Vicious cycle where microbes in your system create more potent microtoxins can lead to hypersensitivity. Chronic infections are caused or aggravated by electromagnetic field exposure. Chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, chronic pain syndromes can worsen. Some microbes increase biotoxins or growth when subjected to EMFs. That last statement, some microbes increase biotoxins or growth when subjected to EMFs. That means that, harmful organisms, and the definition of a harmful organism is anything like virus, bacteria, worms, anything like that, can increase their biotoxins and release them. See, we've always said like the harmful organisms in the body, they secrete chemicals and toxins into your bloodstream. Now, let me just say this again. I'm not here, and please don't think that I'm trying to create a bunch of fear and trying to create a bunch of, negativity and be a fear monger and all that stuff. I'm not really. I want to provide you with the solutions. But when people sit out there and say, "Oh yeah, there's no connection to this," and then they sit there and say that there's no truth to anything, here's the deal. Somebody has to get out there and tell the truth, and there are many, many people out there telling the truth. It's time that we stop, trying to censor everything and actually say what's really going on. So repeated Wi-Fi studies show that Wi-Fi causes oxidative stress, sperm and testicular damage, neuropsychiatric effects, including EEG changes, early cell death, cellular DNA damage, endocrine changes, and calcium overload. And I've got links to all these studies and all this documentation here. Now, listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you all this stuff and not give you a solution either, okay? I'm going to give you some solutions because you're going to realize what's going on. And I don't have all the solutions today. My next video probably is going to be, because I've already been talking to individual companies. There's already people that are working on towers that communities can buy, that can, harmonize the 5G frequencies. So there's a lot of good things. I mean, people are waking up. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about with more solutions. Right now, there's a lot of people out there that are saying, oh, their device blocks this, their device blocks this, and there's a lot. I have to filter through all that information and get back with you on that. It changes every 6 months. So here's another research study: extremely low frequency electromagnetic long-term exposure to 835 megahertz frequency induces hyperactivity and demyelination in the cortical neurons of mice, induction of your autophagy genes, which are genes of cells that eat other cells, and production of proteins. Those were the negative forms were increased, and the accumulation of autolysosomes was observed in neuronal cell bodies. So you see that these frequencies affect your brain, they affect your endocrine glands, they affect your skin, they affect your fertility, they affect all of your organs. A number of studies have reported that RF EMF exposure of animal models increases blood-brain barrier permeability, impairs intracellular calcium homeostasis, alters neurotransmitters, and increases neuronal loss and damage in brain tissue. That, and there's another study I'm going to go over. It's in here somewhere where they talk about utilizing electromagnetic frequencies to open up the blood-brain barrier and open up the gut lining as well. So it causes what's called leaky brain syndrome. You can type that in Google, leaky brain syndrome. And it causes leaky gut syndrome as well. Now, here's an interesting study, and I'm just going to throw this in because there's a lot of information right now coming out on zinc, and I thought this was very interesting. This was an EMF zinc study, believe it or not. I was able to find this. Results of the study indicated that exposure to an electromagnetic field caused cellular damage in lung and liver tissues. And guess what? Zinc supplementation inhibited the inflicted cellular damage. Another important result of this study that needs emphasis was that exposure to an electromagnetic field led to a significant decrease in zinc levels in the lung and the liver tissues. The role of zinc supplementation in the inhibition of tissue damage caused by exposure to the electromagnetic field in rat, lung, and liver tissues. Let me just say that again. EMF caused cellular damage in lung and liver tissues, and zinc supplementation inhibited the inflicted cellular damage. Also, EMF electromagnetic fields led to a significant decrease in zinc levels in the lung and liver tissue. Iodine deficiency activates antioxidant genes and causes DNA damage in the thyroid gland of rats and mice. Well, I've been talking about iodine deficiency for a long time. Iodine restriction causes oxidative stress and DNA modifications. If you haven't seen my Everything You Need to Know About Iodine video, I highly recommend you go see it. The thyroid gland is considered as the body's primary regulator of metabolism through the action of thyroid hormones T3 and T4. High concentration of these hormones may change the metabolism of oxygen in many cells and stimulate the production of free radicals in them. Notice thyroid, electromagnetic radiation, oxygen. Okay. You can put the pieces together here. Iodine is the most important supplement to protect against damage of radiation and helps repair after exposure. Support to the thyroid. Thyroid ensures programmed cell death of damaged and diseased cells. Helps remove heavy metals, iodine. You know, that research was done years ago. Has a protective effect on the brain tissue when it's properly combined with C and E and selenium and all these different types of natural compounds. By the way, why is nobody talking about all the natural things that help build immune system out there? How come you never see that on the news? So when cells are exposed to EMF radiation, the protective calcium coating is removed from the outside of the cells, allowing the cell to dump its selenium, potassium, lithium, calcium, and magnesium, causing a shortage of minerals which must be replenished for the best protection of EMF. So protecting yourself, getting a lot of these minerals in your system is what you need to do. One of the things you need to do. The same doctor, Dr. Thomas Rau, the medical director of Paracelsus in Switzerland, shares his assessment of the microbial connection with EMF. Not only do the artificially produced electromagnetic waves cause toxic mold to grow faster, they suppress the production of beneficial microbes. That means EMFs suppress your beneficial microbes in your gut. That's why part of my immune strengthening program is making sure you have enough probiotics. You need good probiotics. The gut has to be healthy. He says it changes the bacteria in our bodies and increasing pathogenicity, the potential for pathological changes and disease. In 2002, Gro Harlem Brundtland, the head of the World Health Organization, told a Norwegian journalist that cell phones were banned from her office in Geneva because she personally becomes ill if a cell phone is brought within 4 meters, 13 feet of her. Miss Brundtland is a medical doctor and former Prime Minister of Norway. The European Academy for Environmental Medicine agrees, reporting that EMF radiation is linked to cancer, insomnia, and mental health disorders. While Ulrich Warnke, an international esteemed professor from the University of Saarland, asserts that EMF radiation from light transmitters can cause disruption of the body's nitrogen monoxide system, which helps keep cells healthy and regulates gene expression. As for the World Health Organization, that agency has classified EMF radiation as a possible human carcinogen since 2011. The World Health Organization is actually coming out and saying it. $25 million study conducted by the National Institute of Health in rats. Researchers cited clear evidence of carcinogenicity. That was a study by the National Institutes of Health, National Toxicology Program. Why isn't this all over the news? Pregnant women exposed to the highest levels of EMF radiation are 48% more likely to lose their babies than women exposed to the lowest amount. Microwave frequency EMFs attack 4 things that people value most: health, brain function, integrity of our genomes, and our ability to produce healthy offspring. So funny in the American heart, people talk a lot about EMFs and how it affects the heart. It creates atrial fibrillations. I mean, it really has a link to heart disease, and the American Heart Association is silent on the irregular heart rate risks from cell phones, cell towers, and wireless radiation. The American Heart Association's mission statement is to build healthier lives, free of cardiovascular disease and stroke. And, the risk from EMFs in the heart rhythm disturbances, actually, it says the AHA fails to warn the public about this very common risk factor. Heart rhythm disturbances are frightening and can be extremely dangerous. Untreated atrial fibrillation doubles the risk of heart-related deaths and is associated with a 5-fold increase for stroke. Yet, I'm just going to say this. Go see who sits on the board and the CEO roundtable and advisory board of the American Heart Association. The heart, neurological system, and entire body are constantly and increasingly bombarded with harmful EMF radiation, exposed to high electromagnetic fields from common household appliances, and surrounded by artificial low-frequency EMF from electrical wiring and 5G. There's a Dr. Devra Davis, who's also an expert out there on EMF hazards associated with cancer, and she recommends, which I recommend, that men get the cell phones out of their pocket and women get the cell phones out of your bra, and all adults get this technology away from children. I included a link for her. You should check her out. New study shows that having a mobile phone close to the testicles or within a foot or two of the body can lower sperm levels so much that conceiving could be difficult. When I was growing up, there was no such thing as fertility clinics. Now there's fertility clinics on every single corner. How many people do you know that have tried to conceive that haven't been able to? Addicted to mobile phones. The study found that sperm levels of men who kept their phones in their pocket during the day were seriously affected in 47% of the cases, compared to just 11% in the general population. August 2015, Washington Post reported that increased background electromagnetic fields could be contributing to an epidemic in neurological diseases, which is particularly prevalent in the U.S. People are developing dementia a decade earlier compared to 20 years ago. The disease is now regularly diagnosed in people in their late 40s, and death rates from early onset dementia are soaring. The problem was particularly acute in the United States, where neurological deaths in men aged over 75 have nearly tripled, and in women increased more than 5-fold. The rate of increase in such a short time suggested a silent or even a hidden epidemic in which environmental factors must play a major part, not just aging. The WHO, the World Health Organization, actually has electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome. They posted that on their website in 2005. When you expose water to 2.4 gigahertz, it causes a dielectric loss and causes the water molecule to heat up and vibrate. I posted a story about somebody who was helped that had really severe EMF sensitivity and basically tried all kinds of things. And I'm not here, trying to make a bunch of claims or stuff like that. However, this is all anecdotal evidence. This isn't a full-blown clinical trial or clinical study, because who's going to be doing clinical trials and studies on taking selenium for EMF, taking iodine to protect you from electromagnetic frequency or protecting the cells? Nobody's going to be spending millions of dollars doing studies on all that stuff. But it's interesting to read some of the anecdotal evidence from people that have tried everything out there to try to reduce their hypersensitivity. And it seems like iodine is one of those things that works really well. Now, this is interesting. EMF and fluoride have been linked to DNA strand breaks, chromosome aberrations, and impaired immune system compliance. Now, Dr. Alan Frey with the Office of Naval Research injected methylene blue dye into the veins of rats. The dye was absorbed in all the tissues except for the brain, right? Because of the blood-brain barrier. That's your protective filter, right? But then he exposed the rat's brains to pulsed EMF in the range one would find in most cell phones and technology today, and he found that the rat's brains turned blue from the dye because the EMF made the BBB, the blood-brain barrier, permeable at quite low doses. He showed quite convincingly that EMF weakened the blood-brain barrier and could allow many toxins normally excluded from the brain circulation to enter to affect it. It's also been shown to make the gut membrane permeable as well. Now, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the testing that goes on for viruses. That's about it. I'm going to try to keep it simple. So during a pandemic, you have people that are supposedly getting whatever is out there, whatever virus, a harmful organism. And they go in to get tested. The tests that they're using are called reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction tests. Those tests don't actually test for an individual virus. They test for fragments, DNA fragments, RNA fragments, really. And it just so happens I was able to pull up a study that not only are those tests used to determine a positive or a negative of whether you have a virus, but those tests are also used to determine if you've been exposed to EMFs or not. So here's a study done by the NCBI. Western blot and reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction analysis show that EMF exposure of rats, CGN, induces a change in both GLUR's proteins and mRNA's expression with respect to control for EMF exposure. That's all I'm going to say on that. The brain, artificial intelligence, reading and controlling human brains and minds worldwide and constructing different types of cyborg armies. What does that have to do with anything? That sounds crazy. That sounds way off base. Everything links together, and you have to connect the dots. And so the reason why I'm putting this in is because the plan is to create more AI, even to the point where we can. They're even using chips right now that you can telepathically talk to people and all kinds of other stuff. That's going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper down, which I'm not going to get in too deep with that, because I want to kind of, the positive thing of all this is, once you know the truth, the truth sets you free. I mean, it really does. Like, I have zero fear, because I know the truth and I know how to protect myself. And that's what I'm trying to do. Like, people are like, you can't get on and talk about all this stuff. Like, people aren't ready for it. My job is here to help you. Like, I'd be doing a disservice if I wasn't providing information that can help you and teach you about all this stuff. The National Security Agency of the U.S. just developed a very efficient method of controlling the human brain. One of my, Joe Imbriano is amazing. I got some of this information from him. He runs the FullertonInformer.com. I recommend you go over there and look at his stuff, watch his videos. I mean, this guy's dedicated I don't know how many years he's dedicated to this, but I mean, these are all people that just care so deeply about telling you the truth. And with all these links that I put in here, I highly recommend you take a look at it. I highly recommend you read the book Virus Mania. Also, and I've got this information in the link, look at Disease X. I mean, Disease X is a placeholder name adopted by the World Health Organization for any new unknown pathogen that might cause a global epidemic. The World Health Organization said the purpose of the placeholder is to acknowledge the potential for a new epidemic caused by an unknown pathogen. Astonishingly, the World Health Organization's announcement of the term was in February of 2018. Look into that. I put a link on there for you to look at. I talked earlier about Operation Mockingbird. I was in the military. I have a lot of military contacts, a lot. Special operations guys, intelligence guys. We're not allowed to share information, and nobody is allowed to share information. However, you know, if you look hard enough, you can find it. I mean, this is out in the open. This is out in the open. Operation, for those of you who don't know what Operation Mockingbird was, it was a secret campaign by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency to influence the media. It began in the 1950s. It was initially organized by, I think it was Colonel Meyer and Allen Dulles, and it was later led by Frank Wisner after Dulles became the head of the CIA. The organization recruited leading American journalists into a network to help present the CIA's views and funded some student and cultural organizations and magazines as fronts. As it developed, it also worked to influence foreign media and political campaigns, in addition to activates by other operating units of the CIA. Why am I talking about this? Because please learn the truth about all of the movies that you're watching, all of the shows that you're watching on TV, all of the media that's out there. Watch the documentary Out of the Shadows. Watch it with your family. It's not super intense. It's not all conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. It's nothing more than facts. It's called Out of Shadows, and it's a documentary. I put the YouTube link on this document. You can watch it. It goes into the documentation, shows the documents. It's unclassified. It's out there. It's not a conspiracy theory. It shows you how one company or a few companies basically control everything you hear, everything you watch. So take it upon yourself, please, to learn. So when you watch the stuff, you'll have a whole nother view of what's really going on. Next thing I think I'd suggest you research online is MK Ultra. Now, a lot of this stuff has been censored, okay? A lot of our information has been censored. We're literally living in the world of censorship now. Hopefully this video won't be taken down. You have to go now, if you type in Operation Mockingbird or you type in MK Ultra or you type in any of this stuff, you usually have to go to like the 5th or 6th page of Google just to find anything on it, because the first 5 or 6 pages are all, you know, run by the organizations that are trying to tell you this is all a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. Fluoridated water blocks rehydration and causes us to lose salt simultaneously. So does EMF. It causes dehydration and alters your water frequency. So here was a study I found. Fluoride and electromagnetic radiation induced genotoxicity and impaired melatonin secretion. Luke found that the range for the pineal fluoride content in 11 human cadaver pineal glands from persons aged 72 to 100 was up to 875 milligrams per kilogram of fluoride that they had calcified in their pineal gland. And that when you induce that with electromagnetic radiation, it can cause genotoxicity. Now, here's something interesting. Selenium, by the way, I'm a big proponent of selenium. Exposure to EMFs causes a loss of selenium. We know it causes a loss of zinc. Now we know it causes a loss of selenium. We know it deactivates iodine. Selenium protects the DNA from radiation damage, assists in the proper utilization of iodine in the body, known to have a protective effect against the production of cancer cells. Selenium supplementation ameliorates, wipes out electromagnetic field-induced oxidative stress. And that was a study, I put the link on there, by the National Institutes of Health. This is the study. It says there's a widespread use of electromagnetic fields such as oxidative stress, cellular damage, and apoptosis on tissues. Apoptosis means cellular death. Selenium has antioxidant properties by inhibiting oxidative damage within the structure of antioxidant enzymes like glutathione peroxidase. And it also has regulatory function for cell cycle and natural apoptosis. So selenium, the things that the thyroid needs, selenium, iodine, very important. Next, just take a look at and research the company. Well, I tell you what, I'm not even going to say the company. Just go to the document and look. It's a 5G company. Here's another thing that I'd like to talk about. Remember we talked about calcifying and the calcium, how it calcifies when you're exposed to electromagnetic frequencies? We have evidence that it's the eggs in females are being hardened, so they're very hard to penetrate by the sperm. And this is accomplished by wireless microwave radiation exposures, which have been shown to affect the voltage-gated calcium channels at the cellular level. Human follicles, eggs in women, may indeed harden in response to persistent RF microwaves, okay? Radio frequencies is the millimeter with 5G. Which are felt as penetrations. Little girls are born with their eggs to be released one at a time by the ovaries upon sexual maturity. Eggs that undergo zonal response from microwave radio frequencies pulsed against the belly, think like an iPad on your kids, your little girl's pelvic area, might only respond someday to fertilization in a lab with a needle. In other words, it hardens the eggs to where the sperm can't even penetrate it. And we're already seeing that. And that's why there's so many in vitro. The only way you're going to be able to get fertilization is through in vitro fertilization. So what is responsible for the egg hardening during fertilization to prevent other sperm from penetrating it? It's the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Look at this military report on microwaves from 40 years ago. Microwaves' non-thermal effects on the endoplasmic reticulum. And that is the actual military document that I have the link for right there. It's from the FullertonInformer.com. So you go over there and take a look at it. A few other things I'd like to mention. I don't want to mention any names, because I don't want to get hard into that. But on the document, you can go do your own research, but just look at Event 201. You can type in Google Event 201. It's crazy how all this stuff just links together. The next thing I'd like to do, like for you to look at, is Operation Lockstep. Few people are aware that let me just say, look at other people that are involved and a lot of other, organizations and foundations that are involved in all this. And it's just really sickening when you collect the dots and then you start looking at, all the companies that are producing vaccines, and you start looking at the possibility of the mandatory inoculations that could be happening. And when you follow the money and you see all the shares that have been purchased by these different foundations and all this stuff and different types of vaccine pharmaceutical manufacturing companies, it all ties into, and not only that, all the money that's gone into 5G and the expansion of 5G. If you look and you dig deep enough at all, it all makes sense. And I'm not going to go into, all this stuff, but I honestly have a really positive attitude and a positive feeling, because it's like I said, once you know the truth and you know what's going on, then you have the ability to have that sense of hope and that sense of faith, and that you know what to do and how to protect yourself from everything. And this goes into, there's a lot of deep stuff in the document, but you know what? I wanted everybody to have it and and do their own research. You should always do your own research. You should always search for the truth. You should always search for the truth. As a matter of fact, like meditation, mindfulness, being around your family, staying calm, a lot of this whole situation that we're dealing with right now is just fear-based. I mean, you have so many components to it, the fear and the links between all these different things. You're starting to see more mention of zinc out there, which is good. And, just spend some time, do your research, post as much stuff as you can in the comments section. I know there's probably going to be a bunch of trolls in there saying I'm a conspiracy theorist and all this other stuff. But you know what? I'm just a regular guy who cares. I care about my family. I care about your family. I care about the earth. I care about the animals. I care about the trees. I don't, fine. If you should have a choice, right? If I don't want to be bombarded by 5G, I don't want somebody setting up and telling me it's mandatory that I have a 5G tower next to me and my family gets bombarded with 5G. I fought with the power company to get my smart meter taken off. It took me like 6 months to go back to an analog unit. We didn't even talk about smart meters on this show. Go do your research on smart meters. From smart meters, it's everywhere. Like they're hiding all of this 5G and light posts. They're hiding it like cactuses and trees and stuff. Like you don't even know where it is. Don't think that you can't tune into those channels and create depression. And I showed you the studies, right? Do you want to be mind controlled? That's what it is. That sounds crazy. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the facts. Like you could pull up the military documents on millimeter wave. It can be used to create depression. It can be used to create anger. It can be used to control your mood. It can be used to wipe out your oxygen cells. It can be used, this is like weaponry in your home. So I know a lot of you are right now saying like, okay, what can I do to protect myself? And I said at the beginning, I don't want to be sharing a lot of stuff. However, a good friend of mine at Synergy Science, his name is Paul, and he has some units available for whole home, for your phone, to protect your phone. That's what I'm using, as well as I'm going to be sharing with you some paints you can use, some clothing. There's some good companies that are coming out with clothing right now. There's a lot of different things that you'll be able to do to protect yourself. So once you know the truth, iodine, selenium, vitamin D. By the way, EMFs, which I didn't talk about in here, reduce your skin's ability to produce vitamin D as well. Okay, so vitamin D. And then probably within the next couple days, I'm hoping I might do another video follow-up on how to protect yourself from 5G and EMFs. However, I am putting a link for anybody who wants to look at Synergy Science's website. He did tell me that he would give everybody a 10% discount if you click that link right there. So I became an affiliate. I'm not doing this to make money. I'm going to probably donate all that money to somebody who needs it, who's, spreading this, information out there. It's not about money. I'm not trying to sell you iodine or selenium or zinc. This is about research. This is about spreading the word. This is about being safe. This is about being, healthy. I wish I had more answers for you right now. If you know, and you have companies that you've worked with as far as ways to harmonize electromagnetic frequencies, ways to reduce those frequencies for your cell phone, your smart meter, for in the home, post them in the comments. We'll review them. I just wanted to take my time, and I already had this scheduled. It literally took me 4 days. Like I've been working on this for 4 days to go back through all of my files. I had files dating back 10 years ago, 15 years ago on cell phone radiation dangers. I have articles posted on our website from that. I had stuff on 5G. I had all this stuff. I had to compile everything. I had to fact check it. I mean, I've literally spent a lot of time putting this together, and I feel like I'm just touching the surface. Like I didn't even go deeper into the deeper and the deeper and the deeper things. So make sure that you access the document, leave the comments. You can ask more questions. There's more and more information coming out every single day. Look into the testing methodology that's going on right now. Look into the companies that are launching 5G. Look into the coincidence that everything's happening right now in 2020, why everything's happening in 2020. Look at the agendas, and just know that I have your back. I'm working full-time right now on the best possible solutions for this, and how to keep yourself healthy. I've always said, it's all the chemicals, the toxins in the water, the food, the beverages, the electromagnetic radiation. It's all of these things that are making people sick. It's very simple. If you just know how to not expose yourself to all this stuff and not put all this stuff in your system, that's what you need to know. And that's all for today. I had another document that I wanted to, well, I was going to give a shout out to a couple people, but I don't have that in front of me right now. DJ, could you post that information on the document? If not, listen, we're here for you. I appreciate all of you. Like I said, I didn't really know if I should go into all the details, but you know what? Now is the time. Now is the time. I mean, I want to try to help as many people as I can out there, and you should try to help everybody in your family and everybody in your life. So just remember, you have the power to find the truth. You have the power to heal yourself. Your self-healing mechanism is the most powerful thing in the world. Leave your comments. Until next time, live happy and live healthy.